You know, the problem with the bubble word is that it to me, kind of speaks to a specific thing that happened in the late 90s, 2000 time frame. When you use that word in the context of the internet, but there's no question in my mind that the valuations that investors are paying for companies today are high and going higher as we speak. And it makes it difficult for us as investors because it's just a kind of a classic situation where the best possible outcomes are being priced into the valuations and the worst possible outcomes are not. And so it's not a particularly attractive time, I think, to be making investments. But we're still doing it because that's what we're in business to do. And, you know, and I think everybody up here is still doing it. But I also think probably, Chris and David may have slightly different opinions, but they're probably not thinking completely differently about this.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for our end of the market. We're certainly seeing higher valuations, but getting back to the point of starting a business versus building a business, philosophically, I feel like if there is going to be any bubble, and I kind of wish like there was just a standard definition of bubble, like there's a standard definition of recession, so all the chatter can end, but it should be at companies starting businesses. I mean, we think that anybody who has the guts to start a business should be theoretically given that chance, but not everybody should be given the chance to build a business. If it's not working, then it's not working. So certainly valuations have crept up a little bit. I think the entrepreneur needs to know, and this is something we've told them, is that yes, this valuation might be higher, but in your next round, even if you feel like you've created X amount of value, an investor might look at you and say, hey, even though your cap on your convertible note was 10 million, we think we want to do pre-money of 12 million because we think this is quote unquote a fair price for this. And so you're just seeing less of a step up in certain instances, whereas maybe 2 or 3 years ago you saw that valuation instead of 10 it would be at 3. But I can't speak to the later stages of the market.
I mean, I basically agree. I think what I worry about from an entrepreneur perspective is just I think a lot of entrepreneurs today haven't lived through a downturn, and what ends up happening is it's ugly. Like if you do what's called a down round, which is lower valuation, and typically that means you get fired or you get so washed out in equity that you might as well probably want to quit. So it's kind of like death, basically. I mean, I just always assume that with my startups, is down round, I'm done. So, you know, when you raise money at a high price, you're supposed to setting the bar high, and that's great when everything's looking good, but if things turn, you know, so I just worry about that there might be just, there's a possibility. I think frankly we're going to have a couple more years of frothiness and people will get through it, and hopefully I'm sort of cautiously optimistic, but you know, ask Fred about that. And I was doing venture capital in 2003, and all we were doing was shutting down companies, and it was ugly, and it's not a fun thing.
One thing you have to remember about this, though, is as investors, we benefit from it just as much as we are hurt by it. So our companies are able to raise money at prices that are way, way, way higher than the prices that we paid 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So we're benefiting from it too. And Mike Arrington wrote a blog post about this recently, and he said that venture capitalists are running around using the word bubble as a way to talk down valuations. It's actually not in our interest to talk down valuations. I mean, if you really want to, see us act self-interestedly, we'll just, make the hype go higher and higher and higher to get, people to pay higher and higher prices for our companies. We'll make more money that way. I just think that that's irresponsible. We should just, if we think things are getting out of control, we should say it.